Okay, this is part 2 of the using EdgeDB through the REST client video. And last week we set up a project, and then we did a super simple query, and then we did a small insert, and then that was the end of it. So just make sure we remember what happened. So we have this insert movie, and we give it a title, and this is a Korean movie that I watched recently, and then printed it out. And this so this big printout here is from the value enum, and I'll just show you. Value is kind of like the sturdy JSON value enum, so it represents all of the possible outputs from EdgeDB itself. So you can have basically all the stuff that you can see. Nothing. There's UUID. In this case, we got an object because we insert an object, and EdgeDB will always give back at least, if you put an object, it'll give you the ID of the object. And so that is what this is here. So you can see an object is a object shape, and then it's got all the fields here. And we're just looking at the fields. And just to go into the REPL to show you why this, how it looks to compare to the REST output in insert movie, title equals some movie, and don't forget that it's the assignment operator. And so you can see if you don't select anything, it's at least going to show you this the ID. And of course you can do a bunch of other things. You can do, for example, so we can grab the movie that we just put in, and let's say we want to print the title and the ID, and we can also just stick in a whatever we want, a computable. So we can say message equals, this is a random message, like that. And then each of these is going to show up in the fields as well. So there you can see, and also the shape has changed too. So it's got all these, it's describing the shape elements, and you can, that's kind of neat, but the fields are what we're looking at here. So we've got the this one field here, another field here, another field here, and each of these are from the this value enum. And value enum, so there's nothing special about it, it's just an enum. So we can do, for example, if let value object equals movie res, and we know it's a value object, then we can just print out the fields, for example. So we only want to look at the fields, so we do that. So that is one way to work with something you get from the client. And then you've got this. But of course, it would be nice to deserialize that into a REST struct, and that's what we have here. And hold on, that's for later. So yeah, so we have a movie struct, and then we have a title ID, and we would like to deserialize that. So one way to do that is you can turn it into JSON. And in EdgeDB, you can just do that, and you can cast, and then it'll turn it into JSON. And so first, I'll just show you what it looks like. So the interesting thing here is, so we're selecting JSON, but it's still returning a value. And what we would like to do is turn it into, not match on the value. So what we can do is take that out and change to a query required single JSON. So this is going to return a result of JSON, and inside that is just a string. And then we don't have to match on the value anymore. And then that'll print. Actually, the printout will look exactly the same, because this here is the JSON variant inside the enum, whereas here it's just the JSON struct itself, and it's just a string actually. But then now that we have that, we can say let string equals movie res.toString, and then, and by the way, this is the first way I started using deserializing, which is because serde is really neat, and if you have a string, you can just use serde and then use serde JSON, that is. So let as movie equals serde JSON from stir, and we'll put in as string. Unwrap because it might fail, but we know it's not going to fail. You have to tell it that's going to be a movie, and then as movie, and that should just work. Oh, I forgot the braces. And you can see it didn't panic, so it definitely worked. So there you go. So we printed it out and we turned it into our movie struct. So just to recap, the way we did that is we said to EdgeDB, please turn this into JSON. And then we said to the client, okay, what's coming back is definitely going to be JSON, and it's also required single. We know there's only going to be one because we inserted one, and it's got a title and ID. This has a title and ID, and then after that, serde just did all the work for us. So that's one way to do it. And then another way to do it is there is a Queryable macro, and that is inside where is it? EdgeDB derive. If you bring that in, you can use the Queryable macro, which will do the unpacking of the struct, except you don't need to use JSON on the way. So we can take that out, and then we can take out the JSON, turn it to required single. We're going to say, please make this into a movie, and then we take out this, and we take out this. And then that will just work. So this macro, you can use it if a type implements Deserialize. Where does it say that? There you go. The underlying type must implement serde Deserialize, and since we've got that, it will do it for us. There's one thing to be careful about with this macro, and I'll show you in a second. So there you go. That worked perfectly. Title ID. So the one thing about this macro is it's not, so serde, in serde the order doesn't matter, but in this one it looks at the shape of the query, and then it tries to do it one at a time. So first it tries to make an item, or it tries to make a title, and then it tries to make an ID. So that means if you do this, it's going to confuse it. So movie ID title, and then, but it gets a title ID. If you do that, it's going to say, I don't know what to do. So just keep an eye out for the shape and make sure it matches the Rust struct exactly. So let's see, messages, error, some wrong field, unexpected title, expected ID. So watch out for that. But besides that, it's pretty convenient. And then there's one other thing you can do, which is so if you implement Queryable, there's also a nice EdgeDB JSON attribute. You can stick that on there, and what this will do is it'll just use serde JSON underneath. So it'll just do it all for you. So it's pretty much the same as before, except for this time it's going to use JSON. And hold on, do we have to cast it? I forget. Let's see if it works. Yeah. Sorry, there you go. I made it freak out. So we'll give it JSON again. And there you go. So yeah, that's kind of another way to do it. So if you you want to go through JSON, and if you want to make it a little bit shorter, the code you write, you can just say, add this this attribute here, and then give it JSON, and then of course it's using Serdy JSON underneath instead of the Queryable macro. So that means that order doesn't matter anymore. So Serdy JSON is intelligent enough to know that if you have an ID, it's going to try to find an ID, and it doesn't matter what the order is. And so you can also do that. So with that, that's a bunch of ways to quickly deserialize. So there was the you can work with the value enum. You can use JSON and then do Serdy JSON, or you can do JSON with this, or you can do the Queryable macro and just make sure that the fields match up. So those are quite a few ways to deserialize into your Rust types.